Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with the Limp, and I am here with Enemy Action Kharkov. We're getting into the very first turn. It's been a long while in the making, a long while in the waiting, but we're finally here, ready to jump in. So we're going to start playing our game. We're going to jump into it. I'm just hoping I do this game justice because it definitely deserves it. This one is it's beautiful. Enemy Action Ardennes is one of my favorites. Now, got everything set up. I showed you this in the overview. I've already got my cards set up. Over here, I've already got these divided out, and this, it really doesn't matter. I can show you. But these are the command cards, the supplemental cards that are going to get added into my deck. And they're really not that hard to understand. GT3 is game turn 3. GT2 is game turn 2. There's 3 that get added on game turn 2, 2 that get added on game turn 3, and I'm just setting those there so I can throw those in. As far as my other cards are concerned, I started off with 11 supplemental cards. I drew out 6 of those and added them to my deck here and shuffled it up. So I have 12 total cards. I'm going to draw 5 cards to start my first hand, and I'll play out those 5 cards, and that'll be the first turn of the game, all right? So we're going to go back and forth on impulses. I'll play a card, do whatever the card is. The Germans will play one of their cards, and it's going to go back and forth. When I draw my next hand, that's going to be a start of the second game turn. I do need to make the most of my first turn, because my first turn, I have the built-in artillery tactic. I get that as the Soviet player flat out, just automatically for every attack I conduct. I do want to take advantage of that. It also refers to the artillery here on the calendar. There's what's called the Soviet fixed artillery range. It's how many hexes past the little line over there that I can use the artillery tactic. I'll show you guys that here in just a second. We're going to go ahead and jump into it. Make sure you do mark down your victory points here. The Soviets do start with 2 because they got 2 victory point hexes to start with. I'm hoping I keep them, but I probably won't because I'm not the best strategist. So 4, 5. Got 5 cards in my hand. This is going to be our first set for the activation. So let's go look at our units. Okay, so we're over here looking at all of my troops right now. I've got all my counters over to the side, the ones that I'm going to be adding to the games, things like German garrisons or dispersal markers. Make sure you got those nearby. And something else that I add to the game because I think it helps is I've grabbed a couple extra dice just to set to the side because, again, I use these to help keep track of my minimum chit draw and my maximum chit draw. So if my minimum were a 3, I'd set down a 3, and then if the maximum were like 10 or whatever, set that down just so I could keep track in my mind without having to worry about it, because there is a little bit of a mathy thing to it. So when it comes to activating your units here in Enemy Action Kharkov, it is different than how it worked in Enemy Action Ardennes. In Ardennes, you had a command point value for your cards, and that's where more of it came into play. You had so many command points worth of cards that you would have to activate. Now, these do show the command value, but as far as I've been able to kind of grasp, doesn't really seem like that plays as big of a difference in this game when it comes to it. So in Enemy Action Ardennes, for example, if I had 6 points worth of cards that I could activate, I could activate like these 2 or whatever up to your command point value. So there was more of a puzzle aspect with the game. Here, you're pretty much just using your cards to pick what units that you're going to activate. And I like that because it's streamlined gameplay a little bit. I think it's given me the chance to focus more on what is going on the board versus kind of doing a puzzle aspect with the cards that I'm playing. Let's look at the cards that I've started with. I've got 2 primary. Primary tend to be the better ones from what I can see. They have things like activate all. So look at this one. We've got our 69th Army. I can deploy all the reserves, activate all the units, activate any one unit, or do an event, an air supply. Air supply would basically allow me to get a unit that's out of supply back into supply for a turn. Or I can play for the combat tactic, assault coordination. Now remember, this first turn, I've got artillery built into all my attacks. So this the 69th applies to these guys over here. The ones that are yellow on the bottom with the whiter off-white color there on the top. So I could activate all of them. And I do like that idea because I could get some stuff going with them. What I would like to do is to take out these 3 armored cores right here. Get them pushed back, or eliminated would be great. But if I can push them back, that would allow me to kind of divide the German forces because they're all dug in along the line here. All right, so we can activate the 69th. We can also see for the 6th Army, which are these guys, they're orange with the greenish band across the top. I could activate 2 stacks of them. I can activate the entire 3rd Tank Army, which is these guys here. So the yellow with the light blue across the top, 3T, you see right up there. And that's good because this is actually where I want to focus my attack anyway. I really want to be able to activate these units, but this one's going to be hard because there's that little river running along there and a good chunk of my forces are behind it. Like here they're not, but here they are. And if I attack across a river, it cuts my attack power by half. And that's not good. And next we've got Popov. All of them. That is these guys over here. It says Popov, dark orange with the yellow top. So we can activate all of them. And I've got another one for the 3rd tank. So I can activate any 2 stacks and then do a combat action. So I'm wondering if I could maybe move up a couple of stacks where I want them to be, because these aren't in enemy zones of control. He's not, but I'd really like to get these 2 tanks up. Get them up over here to kind of get them across the river and get them into it. I know you can't move from one enemy zone of control to another enemy zone of control, but I think I could move them here to here, or maybe around that way. That crossing this river, it is a minor river, so it is not as big of a deal as crossing like the Donets up over here. That would actually hurt a lot more when it comes to movement points. Now, yeah, I am going to take this slow. I'm going to think it. I'm going to walk it out. All right, so here it shows us our movement point cost, like the increase. And the number after the slash is only when light mud starts coming into it. And that's not until much later in the game, so I don't have to worry about it from now. So it would only be 1 movement point extra to go across. So with that being clear terrain, yeah, I could get them up there. Oh, and before I forget to mention it, this line is the one that I was talking about. This is like the first line that you're going to have for Soviet supply. Like everyone who's here is going to be considered supported. And then later on in the game, it's going to move to a line that is fair bit farther up there past Kharkov. But we do start here. So all of our units are behind this line are supported. And this is also our artillery line to start with. And as the turns progress, you're going to get farther and farther past that line of how far you can call in some artillery. Okay, and one last thing that I've got to consider when it comes to moving my troops is a stacking limit. Now, the stacking limit is 3 units, but there is a 6-step limit to that as well. So you guys can see here, that unit is a 3-step unit. So as such, I couldn't have 3 of them. Basically, any 3-step unit can only have 1 other counter in the hex there with it, but you can have 3 2-step units in a hex. Having these 2 cards, these 2 light blue ones, it's going to give me a chance to double attack over here, but I'm not going to be able to do it back to back to back. So remember, when we activate someone, we can't activate them again on our very next impulse. So if I were to activate the 3rd tanks here as an example, I would use this to remember, okay, I activated 3rd tanks. I can't do that again on my very next impulse. Very next impulse, I activate something else, and then this would switch, and then I could activate them. So if I activate these guys on my first impulse, I couldn't activate them again until my 3rd impulse. And that's making me think I should stop start with them, since I'm going to be doing a couple of things with them. And I'm kind of thinking I want to activate a couple of stacks just so I can get them into the positions I want to get them in, so I can conduct an attack. Let's see, both of these guys are 2-step units. These are infantry. So, oh God, that's the thing. This would be a great one because he's 3 steps, but he's attacking across the river. Had to grab my tweezers. So if I move my tanks around here, have them attack, that should allow me to do, on my next activation with these guys, an attack here, but he would be kept, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up, because I'm thinking if I move one of these tank groups here over to here and then combine around, I shouldn't incur that penalty, but I'll have to check. Okay, I think my plans will work, because it's the Donets here, strength of attacking units. Crossing, it's the Dnieper or whatever is have, but it does not say this for the minor river, so I should be fine there. So, and I looked it up. I'm actually wrong. It's not the first turn, it's the first 2 turns. So I'm starting off with a pretty significant advantage. Oh, pardon me if I haven't mentioned it yet. I did mean to mention this. Make sure you are paying attention to your lines here on the map, because certain units can only go in certain directions because they're part of certain formations. So you see like these yellow guys here, they can only go so far. If we look down here at the bottom, you see that there's yellow here, and then yellow and orange here, and then orange over in this direction to the left. So these guys can all occupy that middle area that's mixed. Yellow can be from here to the right, and orange can be from here to the left. But typically speaking, you can't cross that line, right? Unless certain rare exceptions when it comes to retreats and stuff. But if you do cross it, you have to go, straight back across. Okay, I've been talking and strategizing too much, but I think here's what we're going to do. We're going to start here, 3rd tanks. That's going in my little discard box, supplemental discard. And I am activating 2 stacks. And I'm going to activate these 2 tank stacks here. And I'm doing that so I can get them into the right spot. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to conduct the attack. I technically could, but I don't think... Yeah, that's right, because I was just reading up on that. What I'm effectively doing is I'm activating these 4 units, which means the rest of the 3rd tanks is not activated, and I don't want to actually conduct my attack until they are actually activated. So I'm going to hold off on my attack and build my forces, which I think might be the right idea, but we'll see. And I had this plotted out where I wanted these guys to go.
I think we'll take him to there. If I bring him around here, because those are, and then this 3 can go there, and this 1 can go there, because he is a 3-step unit.
Yeah, because this infantry is 3 steps, so he can only take 1 other counter. Everyone here is 2 steps, so that's fine. And that infantry is 3 steps, so he can take this armored unit. And basically, by me doing this, I am making it to where everyone here across this line gets combined arms, because they're all tanks and they're all infantry, and then they have artillery as well. So they've got a lot going for them, plus they're going to be at least 2-to-1, if not 3-to-1 on their attacks. This guy's going to get ruffle friggin' stomped because there's going to be so much coming at him here. This one I've got at least 2-to-1 with the artillery tactic and combined arms, so he should be all right. Something else that I do with this game, and I've done it before in my other games, just some markers in case you need to mark it for whatever. So if you need to keep track of which ones that you're activating, which of the Germans you've already activated, just whatever it is they say to tilt the counters, turn them around, whatever. I like to have some bright counter or markers there to the side just to throw on specific units. All right, so we have finally finished our first activation. It took me way too long, but like I said, I'm doing slow because I want to have fun with this. Now, I'm going to draw the top card of the German command. It's going to look like mine, and it is the what I'm thinking that's 30th Panzer Corps of the first Panzer Army. So it's the blue guys. It is these guys down over here. Now, what they are going to do is they are going to try to conduct a command starting at the top and working their way down. Once they have conducted a command, they're done. Their impulse is done. It goes back to me. Speaking of which, let me set this here as a reminder. I activated the 3rd tanks. I can't activate them again on the next one, but that's all right. I'll activate someone else. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to smash you guys because you're going to get torn up. All right, so yeah, it looks like they're just going to deploy their reserves. Let me tilt the camera and let you guys see the reserve box because these guys actually do have some reserves that are going to be deployed. Okay, so way up here at the top, they have their reserve box. So this is their reserve. This is their eliminated. Same thing that the Soviets have. Now make sure you keep track because the eliminated is different from one other thing called destroyed. Destroyed is when a unit gets eliminated, taken out, lost its last step, but it was isolated when it was. You put those off to the side somewhere. Put them off map. If they're just taken out the normal way, they can go to that eliminated box because they can potentially come back later. If they are destroyed, they cannot come back under any circumstances. So make sure you do keep those in mind. They are different. So we're going to grab these two here, and they are going to be deploying their reserves. Oh, and something else I did forget to mention is that we skipped a few starting phases of this game. We went right to the command phase for the very first turn. Otherwise, we're going to do reserve phase, car preparation phase, and supply phase. For the first turn, everyone's considered in supply. You're not deploying any reserves or anything like that. All the cars are prepped, so we don't have to worry about these steps on that first turn. That's why it says up here 2+, 2+, 2+, because we're going to start right there. All right, so we've got our 2 counters here, and unfortunately, these are both tanks. These are both panzers that are getting activated. 2-step units each, and they are the ones that have the asterisks. They're actually the only ones that are different from the numbers that are located on them. So we've got our reserve deployment. All right. It's not handled during the reserve phase. They are doing it actually by deploying a reserve that match the command car formation are eligible for deployment. All units and corps, 2+ on some cards. Yeah, that's 1 to 3. Check every eligible unit for deployment by method A only. Deploy those meeting the criteria. Okay, so we have to do this by method A, and method B is only for turn 4+. So this means turns 1 through 3. All right, so we are going to place unit in position hex meeting all criteria. Hex is empty or garrisoned, or is a city hex occupied by only 1 German step. And these units are going to get placed by their selector number, which is the bottom center number. So he is number 2. He's going to be placed first, and then unit 5. Looking at our map here, we do have a victory point hex. It is a low position number. It is 5. It has a German garrison in it. So the German garrison will go away, and we will place unit 2 right there. And it has to be within 2 hexes of a unit and then within their army lines, just like my units have to be. So in reserve units army area, not in Soviet artillery barrage zone. So outside of that. Okay. So it should be the next lowest position hex within 2 hexes that is a victory point. And I'm going to think that that's this one because that's 2 hexes away. It's along their map edge. And it is a victory point, and it's position 15 because that's position 84. That's position 78, 93, 108. So this would have to be the next one right there. And one other thing, if I understand this correctly, this line right here, it says no German reserve supply. It goes up to here and then it goes around over here on the map. A reserve supply is a more restricted form of supply for the German units, and it has certain restrictions on it. I don't believe that's going to be applicable to our situation here. So we should be done with our first German impulse. They have deployed some reserves, which unfortunately for us is more tanks, but we're not attacking over here yet. And my goal with these guys is hopefully to smash through with Popov and come around and kind of threaten them, because they're going to trace supply along these roads, although I'm going to be doing the same thing, tracing supply along the roads on the map. And you can be so many hexes away from one of these, but you have to have a valid bridgehead, right? So for me, like a valid bridgehead would be right here. This is a road hex leading to my map edge that isn't being cut off by some German zone of control, German unit, something like that. And I've got the same thing, guys, supply here, supply over here, covering these guys. So we're good. But again, it doesn't matter because all my units, all their units as well, start in supply. All right, so we can't activate third tanks. All right, so we know we're not activating the third tanks. What are we going to activate? And I'm thinking I might be better off doing the 69th over here, because I could bring in some extra infantry. And if I activate these guys, I could do 2 attacks. I don't necessarily want to do this Rouse attack. I would kind of like to do that with the 40th, because they could attack at 2-1 instead of a 3-2 like these guys. So here it's 2-1. But I could bring this one around over here. So that would be, that's an 8-5. So that's what, 2 to 1.25. Bringing it down all the way. It's almost 2-1, but not quite. And I don't think I can do that. Okay, I'm going to do something kind of dumb here. All right. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try. We're going to activate the 69th. And what I'm doing is I want to consolidate. I want to attack these panzers. And I don't have enough over here at the third tanks to take all of them, because this one's over here too far to the right. So I'm going to have to try just flat out infantry. And I want to attack him as strong as I can. I still have the 40th here who can help, which means I don't want to weaken these guys, but I'm going to do it. I shouldn't, but I am. I have this guy. All right, we're playing this card. All right, let me hold it up so you guys can see it. I'm not deploying any reserves because I don't have any reserves of them anyway. I am activating all of them. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm taking 1 from here, even though I shouldn't. And he's going to go 2 because it's costing 1 extra movement point because he's leaving an enemy zone of control. 3, 4. It does not cost him any extra movement points to cross this minor river. It would if we were in light mud conditions, but we aren't. So I can do that. And by doing that, that allows me to conduct this big attack here. I'm having to have 4 freaking units just to attack this tank, but I want to get rid of them. And I want to attack them at least 2-1. This gives me 11 total, so 11-5. That does give me a 2-1 advantage with artillery. Now, here's the thing. Am I going to add any tactics? And I'm not. I'm not. And here's why. Looking at my cards, I know I'm going to be playing the third tanks, right? So that's out. And I know I'm going to be activating Popov over here because I at least want to get these guys in some better positions and preferably get some attacks going on over here. The first guards are pretty much just going to hold here, but I'd like to get Popov up over here in a better position so they can attack Rouse. Maybe the green guys over here can attack this one. But anyway, I've got attacks I want to do here. So I can't use that for a combat tactic, which means the only ones I could use is this one, but it's fixed artillery, which I have built in already. So I would gain no bonus by playing this combat tactic. There is one card, the Stabga card, that I can play for a wild tactic. So use it for any combat tactic that I want, but I do not have that card currently, so I'm not able to do that. So all these cards are just going to be played for what they are. So I'm just going to have to do the straight attack. And just to show you guys here, on the back of one of the player aids, it lists down all my available combat tactics. On the front side, it shows the German combat tactics that they will use. And things like air power artillery, combat engineers, intelligence, the NKVD, all that cool stuff. Reinforced battle is really good because it allows you to bring in other units who are within a proximate range to join in on the attack. But like I said, I already have artillery, which is the only thing I could realistically add to this. Okay, so here's how we're going to run this. We have to figure out how many chits we have to draw for this attack, and if, or what rather, combat tactic they're going to have. Because I know I'm not playing a combat tactic for myself, which means I have to draw their first command card off the top of the deck, which is the 4th Panzer Army, and they get pull out. Pull out. Anyway, that's not good. I don't want them to retreat. I want them to die. I would much prefer them die. But they might be retreating a hex or two. Let's see what we got here for pull out. All right, here we go. Pull out. Defense only, obviously, and that says it can only be used on turns 1 and 2. 3+ turn, this would be an artillery card. If the combat ratio is equal to or greater than 4-1 and in a non-VP hex, retreat the defending 2 hexes prior to combat, blah, blah, blah. Must end in German supply. The attack is considered resolved. Dissolve any attacker combat tactics, and the attackers may advance after combat. But since it is not greater, then that means we're going to kick off. Okay, so now we have to do our minimum and maximum chit draw. Our minimum chit draw should be 2. No, it's 3. This is a 3-step unit. Interesting. So your minimum chit draw is equal to whatever amount of steps it is that you are attacking. So here we've got 3 steps. So that is the minimum we have to draw from our little cup of pain here. All right. Now let's figure out what our maximum is going to be. +1 chit for each attacking unit with 1 or 2 steps. +2 chits for each attacking unit with 3 steps. +1 chit for every combat tactic applied for the attacker. +1 chit if the defender's out of supply. +2 chits if the defender's isolated. And -2 if they're screened, if they are not. So I have 4 2-step units, I believe. Yep, got 4 2-steps, so that's a total of 4. And let's see. The combat tactic, I am getting fixed artillery. All right, so I'm getting the artillery, so that's another one, so that's 5. So I believe we are at 5 total here. Okay, so here's what we will do. Let's set these out of the way because we already know what's going on here. Get that discarded out for the enemy. And now we shuffle up. I'm going to start with my 3, and my maximum total is 5. So I can have up to 2 more than my minimum. So we'll set these out of the way. And let's shuffle up. Let me grab one to show you guys. There are a couple in here that are different colors. Here's one. See, their attacker has artillery that is different color. There's another one in here about odds ratios. All right. So these colors, the ones that are slightly off color, I believe there's 3 in here if I remember right. If you draw one of those, that means that this has to be reshuffled up. Okay, so let's do this. I mean, look away.
All right, don't drop him. Dig in. That's 1. And no one over here, 2. Don't do anything bad. No whammy, 3.
All right, so we're going to stop there. And now we're going to see what we have. Oh, I'm seeing too many A1s on here. I do not want to get hit. Okay, that's clear terrain. Let's see. Dispersed, unsupplied. They are not dispersed or unsupplied. Let's see if the back applies. Defender adjacent. That does not apply. So this one is just flat out. Let's set it off to the side over here. Let's see the second one. City or woods? No. Clear broken? Yes. It is clear, and unfortunately that means a step loss for me as well. Dispersed, unsupplied, no. Again, same thing. Defender adjacent, no. So neither one of these apply. Right now, we've each only taken one step loss, and they can satisfy that with a single retreat, and I have to satisfy it by eating a step loss. I want them to take more. So screw them. We're getting
2 more in here and see what we can get. Come on. Do something good. That. And yeah, I got 1 more. Do something good. Do something good. And that.
Okay, that one's already been applied. So, what do we have? What is this? Something good. No, definitely not that. So, is it the back? It's not greater than 3 to 1, so that doesn't apply. Damn, I didn't get anything that applied. City, town, woods? No. Dispersed, unsupplied? No. I only got 1 counter. And this was the blue one. So I gotta throw all these back in. Okay. That was a weak ass attack. And we only each suffered 1. They will eat the first one as a retreat. I guarantee they're gonna retreat. And I have to take a step loss to one of my units. It's gonna be you. Because attacker always has to eat 1 as a step loss. Shows you, where was it? Yeah, applying combat hits and step losses. Defender hits. Retreat 1 hex to satisfy 1 hit or 2 hexes and disperse all defending units to satisfy 2. I wanted at least 2 hits. All that work for 1 hit. And attackers, you see, apply first hit, step loss. Up to 2 additional hits may be satisfied by dispersing all attacking units. Apply other hits as step losses. So, with attackers, your first 3 hits against the attackers can be satisfied by 1 step loss and dispersing everyone. And then it takes 4 hits and above to cause any more step losses. Defenders can satisfy a fair amount with retreats and dispersion. I would have been fine with dispersing them, but all they did was back up a single freaking hex. And that was a blue one, so I had to throw that one back in there as well. That was crap, because they didn't even disperse. All they did was back up 1 single hex. All that attacking. But that is how I do it with my little dicey-diceys there. And it's alright, because we got more attacks coming. I got some combined arms. I didn't even look, actually. I should have looked at these before I threw them all in there. Actually, let's do that real quick. Because I have the other set unpunched over here to the side. Let's see what type of results we can get. The artillery didn't even matter. Okay, see here, artillery. Only attacker armor. That's something. I remember 1 being about combined arms, right? So if you had infantry and mechanized or armor, and I'm not seeing that on this one. Because that was definitely in enemy action Ardennes. And this looks like, oh, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 counters in there about artillery. Nothing. Flank attack. I am going to have a flank attack going on over here. Because you have a flank attack if you attack from 2 non-adjacent hexes or from 3 hexes of units that are adjacent. So this one and this one attacking him would be a flank attack. Yeah, and then this one attacking there would be 2 to 1. It's not the best odds. I need to actually get some differences. It'll help once I get them pushed back a little bit. See, German air power, so that's why you want to have that one applied if you can, or Soviet air power rather. But you see where it says S, that means it specifically applies to the Soviets. If it's G, it's specifically going to apply to the Germans. NKVD, that one. See what the back says. A lot of the ones here are ratios. Dispersed, defender artillery, Soviet air power, defender only armor. So having armor is important because if you only have infantry, whichever side it is going to take some losses. And then obviously you don't want to be dispersed or unsupplied. You'll definitely take a beating. And then getting in better terrain, stuff like towns, cities, woods will all help you out. Anyway, just a look at the chits that we can potentially draw. And I do like the fact that they include 2 sets. Okay, well, we'll stop the video here. I was very, very slow on how I started this, so I apologize, but I'm talking through everything that I've got going on. We'll speed up a little bit. Next, we are going to have to draw ourselves a German card because we have done 1 for them so far. And I am going to have to keep track of it because drawing their combat tactic card puts another card in their discarded area. And I need to keep in mind that that was used as a tactic, not a impulse. Actually, just so I don't forget before we film our next video, I'm going to go ahead and draw the next card for the Germans. And we're going to go ahead and set that right there. That when we pick up, we know we're going to be activating 3rd Corps of the 1st Panzer Army. So we'll slide that right over there. That's these guys located here with the gray bottoms and the orange top. And we'll leave that there to know we last activated the 69th, who did BS bullcrap, nothing worth a damn. And we know when we pick back up, we're going to be activating 3rd Tanks because they are going to try to smash their tanks and get something done. Because if I can take this guy, especially pushing him back, especially if I can push this guy back at least a couple of hexes, be great to disperse him, be better to put some hurt on him, but that'll give me a chance to put this one in danger of surround. If I get over here, like if I have a unit here, that means he's in danger of surround because if I were to put like a unit here, that zone of control with this guy coming around would be putting him at a isolated position. So I could potentially come around over here and start smashing them, especially if I can break these guys back and then swing around, pincer in these guys. But they do have orders, like their activation, their command cards and such for the Germans do instruct them to push back immediately to avoid situations of being surrounded and isolated. So I do like that the enemy AI pays attention to that. It's not going to just sit there and try to throw itself at attacks against you that it has no chance of winning and then sit still while you surround it. It's going to try to react against that. All right, but we'll pick up with video 2 with the rest of turn 1, which we'll try to play a little bit faster and see what happens with the 3rd Corps and the tanks, man. The tanks are coming in, man. They're going to smash them, man. All right, that's going to be it for me on this one. You guys take care. I'll catch you in the next one.